1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3.
What's happening, y'all? This is Mirror Music. I'm Andrew, that's Coop, and today we are sorta, kinda continuing our Grammy series. Um, whereas we on most of these episodes we have talked about an album from each side,
Mhm.
and talked about which one really deserved to have the Grammy for that year. This one is for the 1978 Grammy cycle, which includes Fleetwood Mac's Rumours, which means that particular comparison conversation is irrelevant. Though I will say that it's only irrelevant by 2 or 3 days, because Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life comes
Correct.
out September 28th,
Correct.
1976, which is right
Correct.
before the cutoff. So
Correct.
if that were in the same year, that would be a real conversation. But it is not. So
I
here we
think,
are.
I mean, it's frightening that 2 of the 10 best albums ever, in my opinion, got made that close together in terms of actual release date, which means recording process was probably comparable in terms of timing when recorded. So, some special stuff coming out around that time.
I think Rumours was February 77, I think is what I just saw. Don't hold me to that, but and does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that sounds right. It feels that way.
All right. So we have discussed it'll be an interesting conversation because we have discussed Rumours at least 10 different times in the course of different episodes.
I think 20.
We
I
did an
think it's
episode on the chain, so we talked about it then.
closer
But
to 20. Got to be closer to 20. Got to
yeah,
be closer. Hmm.
yeah. So
We've done a
it's
lot
one
of
of the
episodes.
it's one of those we talked about this in the last episode actually when we were talking about having nothing to do anything with Fleetwood Mac, but um we talked about how Rumours is sort of, and Stevie Wonder too, are becoming the purple tape of mirror music, whereas every conversation ends up back there regardless of where we start. So they're kind of the foundational, or some of the foundational pieces of music. It
Absolutely.
doesn't surprise me when the first time I knew that you loved Rumours, like it didn't surprise me to hear that. But tell me a little bit about your history with it and like when you heard it first and like what you love about it.
Okay, here's the thing that I love about it. The first time that I heard it from beginning to end, I realized I had already heard half the songs.
Yeah.
and that, and that is coming from a black man who is spent most of his childhood and formative years between downtown Atlanta, Decatur, Lithonia, Georgia, and the west side of Charlotte, West Boulevard, Beatties Ford, Freedom, Tuckasegee.
Yeah.
So those are not predominantly white spaces.
They're not. No.
And so the fact that I was already acquainted with a lot of these songs,
Mhm.
I just didn't know because I've heard them here and there and
Right.
everywhere for what seems like my entire life on
'Cause
TV,
you have.
movies, passing by randomly when I click the wrong button and go to the white radio station when I'm younger. So yeah, so this album, that was the first thing that stood out to me, was that I was like, oh shit, this is one of those. I knew that immediately because I
Mhm.
realized that I was familiar. And here's what I'm saying: when I knew the songs, some of the hooks and some of the melodies I had heard before on multiple occasions. And
Mhm.
sometimes people need to understand this. Your memory works in a funny way. Some of these songs, I'm telling you, I've heard working in restaurants.
Oh, yeah. They play them in the
Yeah,
restaurant, they play them in the grocery store, they play them at the commercial
correct,
breaks on basketball games, they play them in the stadiums, like, you hear them
correct.
everywhere, yeah.
Correct. So my immediate first takeaway was like, oh, this one was big because
Mhm.
I'm acquainted already, even though I'm not
Yeah.
familiar. And that's one of those things. It's like when you're acquainted with somebody that you're not familiar with,
Yeah.
that means that shit is major. And so that's what made me know that it was major. And so from that point, that goes into, the music lover in me is like, well, how major is it? Let me
It
hear it again. And so I remember the second time that I heard it, I think the moment where like the light went off and I was like, this special. Um, I can't can't think of the name of the song before the chain. What's the name of the song before the chain? Let me pull up.
Yeah,
I'll,
I was just listening to it.
me too.
Songbird, the Christine McVie, this kind of solo song.
Yeah. Okay. So there is something musically about the transition from Songbird to the chain that gave me the chills as a music
Oh
listener.
yeah.
Where I'm like, hold on. I'm like, no. This is up there,
Yeah.
and that's one of those things where I'm glad I heard this album as an adult. Like the first time, I'll tell you what's funny. The first time I actually heard this album was in my own restaurant.
For real.
The restaurant that I co-owned. So, we had a 70s style theme. So the
Okay.
walls, remember the old orange and blue and yellow and
Yeah.
green stripe? The whole restaurant was like that. We had a 1950s big orange fireplace and we had a record player. And we bought our vinyl records in. My owner and business partner at the time, well, that was one of the first albums she bought to the restaurant. And so there was like, what was it? It was like Rumours, Purple Rain, Thriller, I think Anita Baker's Rapture. Those were like the first few albums that we bought in the space. And so for the first maybe 2-3 weeks that we were there, those were the albums we played. So I probably heard Rumours in a 30-day span. The first time I heard it, no, I heard it those first 30 days at least 30 times.
Yeah.
Like at least. And so immediately just totally fell in love with the album. By the time we were opening the restaurant, I was singing damn near every word to the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To the album.
They're really catchy too. On top of everything else.
Okay, so let's go to the part where as a music listener, I was glad that I listened to this as an adult. It's kind of sometimes maybe when you're younger, easy to miss some of the beautiful idiosyncrasies about this album because your ear is not as evolved yet. First of all, I think the most beautiful part about this project is that much like Purple Rain and Thriller, each song can stand by itself, but sounds beautiful because of how they sequenced it.
Yep.
And is one of those albums where it is elevated by its sequencing, because when you have this many phenomenal songs that aesthetically and musically go so many different places stylistically, it is hard to put that shit together and make it sound good.
Yeah.
And
Especially when you have 3 or 4 different people writing them.
Correct. And so much like Thriller and Purple Rain, which it deserves to be mentioned next to, and I'm saying that so that the people on my side who follow understand what type of project that it is.
Yeah, the worldwide sales of this record, just for reference sake, are 40 million at least.
Right. So Purple Rain, Thriller.
Yeah, they're way up. It's way up there. Yeah.
Right. Deservedly so. So also too, I mean, sidebar, not every album deserves the record sales that it gets, for better or for worse. When you just told me it sold 40 million records, it's like it's worth every. Yeah. Right. Yep.
It
should be. Yep. Should be. It's like that. The beauty in the album is the sequencing to me. Like the true masterpiece of it is the sequencing, because all of these songs individually are great. And this is what I mean when you're older and more mature and can listen to it. I can separate each one of these songs, and we could actually do, and I think you said this when we did The Chain, we could actually do a Mirror Music on every last
single one
of these songs. No, there's only like there are not 10 albums like that, which means it easily.
It's a very short list. Yeah.
I mean, so there's not 10 albums like that, which means this one is one of the 10 greatest albums of all time. It doesn't matter genre. It's not even argumentative in my question. I think the question then becomes is like, because I do believe it is in the conversation of the greatest album of all time. Very
Absolutely
much.
is.
Absolutely. And I think there's only about 5 or 6 or 7 albums that legitimately can say that, in my opinion,
it's a really short list.
Based on what I've heard and also what I've learned from you, and how my musical ear has evolved from what we've shared through this process over the years. So it's really just, I mean, it's breathtaking, Andrew. Like even it's hard to explain this in just layman's terms. The start of the album, the way the pace immediately just shifts from first song to second song, but it doesn't lose any momentum. Like that's one of those things that I don't use this word too often. When people talk about making magic in the studio, that's what it is, because it's like, traditionally speaking, those two songs don't go together.
They don't at all. No.
But it feels right.
It does.
And people have to understand this. The most classic of the albums they have, not just the classic records, they have that classic feel. And so it gives you the classic feel immediately, because it's like, it's like, oh no, that's great. It's great. It's brilliant. It's a nice move.
Yeah.
It's a nice move. It's well played. Not used to hearing that stylistically from an album starting off like that, in terms of like the pace, the actual pace.
Right. The first one's a rock. Or Secondhand News is a very up tempo kind of, very high tempo kind of record, and Dreams is obviously a little bit slower. Dreams is obviously one of the most famous songs that's ever been made in any genre of whatever. Like it's one of the biggest that's ever been done.
Right. So how about this? I'm not joking. I don't know how many times I've walked into a gas station and that record was playing.
Thousands,
You know
I'm sure.
That's what I mean. It's like, when I heard the album, it's like, well, I already knew the album. It's like, because as soon as Dreams came on, I was like, oh, this is who that is.
Yep.
It was one of those, this is where that song came from, because I've been hearing it in every Pilot and Sitco and 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do that with that song. You do it with Don't Stop. You do it with Go Your Own Way. You go with The Chain. You do it with Gold Dust Woman. Like there's a bunch of songs on there that they play.
You just the names, the ones that I specifically knew immediately first time that I heard it. And here's another thing about it too. Sometimes I tell people this. Sometimes it takes you about that third listen before you realize how classic something is, or how great something is. When the shit is all time great, it don't take 3 listens. You hear it the first time, hold on, the fuck. Like it's almost like your world kind of stopped for a second. You're like, hold on, run it back, like immediately. Thank you, immediately. It's not the I'm gonna go listen to that again tomorrow. It's the hold on, what the fuck? It's like, play that again.
Yeah.
Like, which kind of goes back to the Purple Tape thing. The first rap album that I heard from beginning to end, because I didn't hear Illmatic from beginning to end.
Right.
I heard it in bits and pieces first. So the Purple Tape is the first album that I heard from beginning to end. I remember when me and Mario's homie Tremaine gave me the tape, and he was like, I remember him shaking his head. He's like, I don't know, Coop. He's like, I really ain't feeling it like that. And I just was like, he's like, here. He's like, make you a dub. Bring my tape back tomorrow. I said, bet. I can remember going upstairs to my grandfather's house. We had like a loft kind of balcony area. It was kind of like its own little loft area that me and my brothers and sisters and mom slept in. And I can remember my mom had went to sleep, and my brothers and sisters were up there. So I went down into like the den area where my grandfather slept, and I sat on one of the couches on the side. There's 3 couches, a big ass room. There was like a couch that he slept on because he refused to sleep in a bed, and 2 couches on the side. And I just remember curling up on the couch and being like, what the fuck? Like, hold on, and being up, because I had to listen to the album again, and the Purple Tape is long. Like, Rumours is probably the next time that like I did that, and definitely the first time outside of this genre that I did that, where I immediately was like, oh, hold on. Like, in terms of it shattered my musical ear. You have to understand, when I heard the Purple Tape, I was only 14 years old.
Right.
So my hip hop ear wasn't that evolved, and most of the stuff that I'm knowledgeable of now, I wasn't knowledgeable of then.
Right.
You know, I barely heard To Cal and Return to the 36 Chambers the whole way through. You know what I'm saying? At that point. So Fleetwood Mac, Rumours, it's like that's what kind of reset my musical bar in terms of what you would call popular culture white music, where it's like my ear was kind of shattered, where I was like, oh, hold on, like, what the fuck is that? Like, play that back again. Because that sounds like the best, not to be funny, I was like, that sounds like the best white people music I ever heard in my life. I'm pretty sure.
It's way up there, man.
You know, but that was my take on it. And I still feel that way. I'm just obviously, you know, that was that was an older me, but still like a more like person that would say shit like that and mean it when they say it. But in all seriousness, it's like, I don't know if there is a album that is popularized in white culture that has better records from beginning to end. Because when I listen, like, and here's my thing, me personally, if I'm making a list, I prefer this album more than all the Beatles albums.
I can see that. Yeah.
Just me personally. So it's like, no, I do think it's better than Sgt. Pepper's. um, Abbey Road, Revolver. I do think it's better than those projects. Not by like a lot. It's not like some
No.
sort of astounding margin. It's, you know what I mean. But I do consider it to be probably. I mean, depending on how I'm feeling, Andrew, it might be like fourth, fifth, sixth best album I've ever heard, in my opinion.
It's way up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's way up there for me. It's, I mean, it is. I'll say it's a top 5 album for me, Andrew. Because every time I play it from beginning to end, and there's only a few albums that have me like that, like literally a few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I can't stop playing it, and then I will play it for days. That's what I mean. No, that's one of those greatest rap album, R&B. It don't matter what it is. When it's great like that, it's like you will not listen to it for a while, and you'll listen to it again, and then you won't stop listening to it because it's like the music is so great. It's like, well, why would I cut this off? It's as good as
what am I going to replace that with?
What am I going to listen better? And then there's that lull where it's like where the album ends and you do decide to listen to something else. And sometimes, and this has probably happened to you too, you like, nah, I'm cool. I think I'm just going to
go back to it.
Yeah. I'll go back to it, or I'll just ride and be quiet until like my musical ear can be reset enough to, or like I can be deprogrammed from the greatness and get back to some of this whack shit.
you got to keep your palate diversified, right?
No, but also too, but I'm serious when I say that. You also have to cleanse your palate. I do find myself, after I listen to a Purple Rain, after I listen to a Thriller, a Songs in the Key of Life, a Joshua Tree, an Abbey Road, I do find myself, a Jagged Little Pill, a Blue. I find myself after I listen to those albums, I really do be like, what the fuck am I supposed to listen to now?
Yep.
And really, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what happens. I find myself listening to those other albums.
Yep.
In its wheelhouse, because it's just, I mean, it's just like, I mean, we're music heads. It's just like a drug addiction in a lot of ways, Andrew. It's like, I don't know. It's like,
this is
that
good
was
for
really,
you, right?
That was really good fix. I really don't need to get another fix. It's like, I don't want that little bullshit fix anymore now.
Yeah.
I just got to get a real fix.
You gotta get the real stuff. Yep.
Yeah, so you'll find yourself going on a run where it's like, well, you're listening to the best Isley Brothers stuff and Stevie Wonder stuff and Prince stuff because you want that hit, that musical hit. Yeah.
One of the joyful experiences, and I did this with What's Going On. I was texting you back and forth yesterday morning, 2 mornings ago, a couple days ago, right after we had done the What's Going On and show.
Yes.
And one of the things that great albums do, and What's Going On is one of those albums, and Rumours is another one of those albums. And I say this as a literature teacher. I say this as a fan of music. I say this as a fan of like great art. Is that the more you're exposed to it, even like I've heard both of those albums, What's Going On and Rumours, in the thousands of times probably. And this morning with Rumours, I heard things I'd never heard before. And when I listened to What's Going On, some of the notes that I sent you, voice messages, whatever I sent you a couple mornings ago, like I'd never heard that before, or had never noticed that before. And that's one of the main separators for me between albums that are great and albums that are all-time great, is that you can keep going back to it, and even 20 or 30 or 40 years later, you can still hear new things in them that even if you've heard them hundreds of times.
Yeah, it's like, it's literally like pulling water out of a bucket from an endless well. Like it is that, musically speaking, it's endless. Because here's the thing, and this is, and you and I have talked about this before too. There's a lot of timeless themes on here.
Yep.
There's a lot of Simple Stupid on here. Most of these, all these chord, not to be fun, all this chord shit you've been teaching me these last few years, I can hear every last one of those strokes. When you talk about the simplicity of them in terms of how songs start, every last one of these songs starts off with one of those 3 chords that you talk about.
Yep.
It's not like they're doing anything complicated. Now, they are using different notes. They are changing up the tempo. But I think that is part of the beauty of it, is the fact it's like, well, they're just speeding up the tempo and slowing it down and taking stuff out and putting
for example, Dreams, probably the most famous song Fleetwood Mac ever did, or certainly one of the most famous songs they ever did, and one of probably the greatest songs that's ever been composed by a human being and put down on record, is only 2 chords. There's only two. It's only 2. So
Okay, so that goes to the magic because you're lost in it, so you don't hear that.
it's
And you
hypnotic.
don't care. Yeah, you don't care. Nobody cares about that.
No.
Like nobody cares about how simple it is. It just sounds right. It sounds the way music is supposed to sound to a musical ear. And I thought about this, and this is one of those albums too. Well, this is one of those albums that'll make you classify how you love music too. And this is what I know that I'm a music lover because I love this album, not just a hip hop lover.
Right.
If you don't love this album, I do not see how you can call yourself a music lover, because there are some things that are not conversational. It's like, that is, Barry Sanders is great at running the football. You know what I mean?
Yes, he is. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Larry Bird is great at shooting the basket. Like, what I mean? There are some things like we are not about to debate some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And this album is like that. So it's like, if you tell me, it's like, oh, no. You might love this genre of music over here and be like, very well versed to speak to that. But if you tell me that this album is just okay, I'm gonna tell you, well, you don't know shit.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Yes.
See, you would tell me. See, that would be the difference between you and I. Even though we are similar, you would tell them they're wrong. You're like, you don't know shit. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. So, tell me about your first experience listening to this album. How old were you when you heard this album from beginning to end?
Honestly, I don't remember. I remember buying
it your whole life.
What?
Have you been listening to it your whole life? Does it feel that way?
Yes and no. Like, if I'm being honest, I remember buying the CD of it. I was probably college age-ish. But like you, I had heard many of these songs forever. Like, my house was a musical household, but listening to the radio musical household, as opposed to like having albums and pulling albums out musical household. So we didn't have a ton of albums around except for the ones I started buying when I was a teenager. So it wasn't the same kind of mom puts on Hotter Than July to clean the house on Sunday morning kind of situation, right? So it's honestly, my experience with it is probably not dissimilar to yours, which is that I was familiar with many of the songs from the radio, from the grocery store, from wherever, from just them appearing in the world. And it's always a wonderful experience, and it's always an incredible experience to hear. You said this earlier, like, to hear them, like, they all function individually, and they played every single one of these songs on the radio too, like, not just the biggest hits, but all of them. And it's a different experience to hear them all sequenced and put together. And some of that has to do with the mastery of the recording process. Some of it has to do with how good the songs are. Some of it honestly has to do with the content of the songs, because a lot of it's call and response. I mean, the way the album is sequenced, right? Where they're responding to each other. I mean, we've talked about a little bit, and we can get into it in a minute, but talked about like the relationship stuff that's going on during the recording process of this album.
So here's what I actually heard for the first time, because you learned something new. I learned something new too. This album is a beautiful story where you, as a listener, have to pick who's your protagonist and who's your antagonist. And I think it's the only album like that.
Yeah,
because
it is the only one that I know of.
Because of the back and forth that you're talking about. Because it's clearly, I mean, first of all, and I've said this before, I think The Chain is the best breakup song I've ever heard in my life.
Me too. I agree.
Best breakup song ever. Breaking up with somebody, send them that record.
Yeah. No, one of the things that I noticed this morning, speaking of The Chain, and we can get into the relationship stuff in just a second too, but is that there's a lot of times where they're using unison singing. You know, guys know what I'm talking about when I say unison. When there's like two people singing, but they're singing the same note, the same melody. They're not harmonizing with each other. Does that make sense? So
it feels like recorded separately in that regard.
Yeah, where they're singing the same note, right? So that happens more. I thought of Fleetwood Mac as being harmonizing a lot, like singing two different notes and making chords out of what they're singing. And there's more unison singing. Like there a bunch of people at the same time singing the same note. So, and don't stop, like the don't stop thinking about tomorrow, right part. That's like 4 different people singing the same note. They're not harmonizing on that. And it come back to what the point was. They do it in the chain too. The if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. That part, they're singing the same note, and then they break into a harmony there, and you still hear you saying, right? So that's but what I noticed is I noticed that this morning, but I also noticed that when they're singing, even the harmony part, you can still hear me saying, "You'll never break the chain." There's only 2 parts in that harmony. There's 2 different notes being sung, and the 2
Right.
women are singing one of the notes, and the 2 men are singing the other
Mhm.
note, and which and those are the 2 couples that are splitting apart. So you have 2 like 4 people singing the same note who are on the same track, and then the 2 women and the 2 men splitting apart to sing 2 different notes within the same chorus, which is fucking genius. Like it's
It,
as a metaphor, as a and just the way it sounds too is incredible.
so, and for me, that's why the chain is the peak of the album,
Yeah,
because in the story, this is the climax scene.
yeah, it
This is
is.
the climax scene of the story of the breakup, because this album is pretty much stories about the breakup,
Yeah.
and they're talking shit about each other in a variety of ways
Yeah, they are.
throughout the course of the album. And and self-effacing. I mean, look at Gold Dust Woman, which is pretty much,
Mm.
I got a
It's
drug
over.
addict. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty much saying I got a habit too.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. And you got a habit too.
Yeah, we all do. We all do, right? No,
Right.
and the chain starts even with the heartbeat, right? Like there's not really much drumming in that song at all until you hit the chorus, but the chorus is just doom, doom, or the verse is doom, doom.
That's what I mean. It's just like when
He's doing the kick, right?
yeah, he's just doing the kick on the drum set.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not that's what I mean. It's not even like in go mode, but there's something about the sparse nature of that
Mm-hmm.
that evokes so much emotion out of the listener before you
Yeah.
even hear them sing, and then they start singing, and then it's like, okay, this is like, hold on, you're on track number 7 of the album, and you're like singing for about the 3rd or 4th time. This is one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're on track number 7, so you're
Yeah.
like,
There's more.
right, the album's not done. You're like, man, because my one critique about the album is that I do feel like The Chain is such a climax type of record.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred maybe, and this is the only thing I can say. Maybe you put it at 9 or 10 and only leave a song or 2 after, just to,
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's small
And I'm
potatoes.
just
Yeah.
talking. Yeah, and I'm just talking about the level of the emotion that it evokes out of the
Mm-hmm.
listener. I'm not even saying it's the best song. You know.
Right.
Right.
No, it is it is my favorite of the songs, like personally.
No, it's my personal
Yeah.
favorite too. I do think it's the best record on there, but also too, it's like, this album has so much to offer, very much like a Purple Rain, a Thriller, a Purple Tape, where it's like, I've been arguing with people that I went to Alexander Graham Middle School, literally to this day, has grown men about what the best 3 songs on the Purple Tape are. Well, that's what it is when you get albums
Mhm.
like that. If you told me that Let's Go Crazy was the best song on Purple Rain, it's like, well, I still think it's When Doves Cry, but I'm not going to argue with you about that.
You could be right. Yeah, sure. It's not. It's a
Be
personal
right.
like that's what you and Lo talked about, right? Like it's a personal taste thing, right? It's not a. They're all great.
You know what's crazy? It's like when he said that, I realized this really is about who talks it the best, because it is all subjective at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, some of it is about your following in your past. There are other mitigating circumstances, but at the core of it, it's like, do you talk this shit well or don't you?
Yeah. And do
Yeah.
you know what you're talking about? Right. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
And we do.
no, a little something. No, a lot more from knowing you, sir.
Yeah. For sure. Same here. Again, for those of you who have not been following this journey, like we have been friends since we were 15, and we've been doing the show 3-ish years, 3.5 years, something like that now. And the original conceit of the show was for Coop to teach me about hip hop, because I realized that I was missing a lot of things, right? Like, and so like I
Musically,
wanted to know more. And to your eternal credit, you said actually there's a lot of music from the other side you know more about than me. So how about we do it not just a white guy plays the patsy and learns about hip hop, but let's actually like have a cultural exchange and teach each other instead.
well, I think the fact that you and I'm not surprised about this because anybody knows this about you. You approach most things with humility, and so when you came to me with that, I thought, to myself, and I've known you for a long time, obviously, since we were teenagers, said this might be the most humble thing that he's ever said to me. And so that's what stuck to me about it and made me want to be like, well, what can I actually give back that's really going to make this like work? Because I didn't want it just to be that.
Right.
Well, I mean, but I understood what you were coming from. But I think, I kind of sat with me. I thought about the DJ who did my first wedding. DJ Big H. His name is Holland. Holland and I are friends. We used to work together at a place in Atlantic Station when I moved back from Cali. That's where I met him. When Holland came over to me and my ex-wife's house, and we gave him a list of like 150 songs.
Right.
Most of it R&B, some rap. You know what I'm saying? Not none of the stuff I know.
For a wedding.
Right. It's like Give Up the Goods wasn't like on the list. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. This is
right. It's
context,
on my
right? Context.
Right. So it's stuff like I'll Be There For You, Method Man and Mary, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Always on Time, Ja Rule, Ashanti. You know what I'm saying? It was stuff like that was on there. And I can just remember his eyes lighting up when he was leaving. And he just looked at me and told me, he was like, Coop, brother. He was like, it's like he about to help me expand my R&B palette, because he actually had his rap shit on lock. Like Holland knows just about as much about rap as I do, maybe more. He's one of the few guys I'll say that about too. So it's like when he looked at the R&B records, he's like, I have no idea about some of these records. He was like, I'm so excited.
And that's the experience you want, right? Like,
correct.
Oh, dude, this is cool. Please teach me some of this shit. Like,
but then I thought to myself, well, Holland used to give me music primers. He's more of an indie underground jungle. It's playing in Brixton at 4 a.m. as DJ.
Yeah.
I like that about him because he's a great DJ. I don't even think he DJs anymore. I think he has his own company now. But when you asked me about doing this, I thought of that moment where he lit up like that, and I'm like, man, what if we could make each other light up like that?
Yeah, man. And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me ask you, what albums do you think are better than Rumours? Like where's it on your personal list? And then how separate is your personal list from your objective list? Because what I find is that no, seriously, because
it's a serious question. Sure.
My personal list, it's almost the same albums as my objective list. It's just the order is a little distorted. I
actually need to go through that exercise and actually make my list. I've never actually done it. I mean, I've thought through it, and I can like when we had this conversation when we talked about Blue and about what's going on. I can sort of say, like, in relation to each other where they fall. Like you said, is it better than this? Is it not better? Like, I can do that more easily. But I would say certainly in the top 10 for sure. Both objectively and personally. Like, I would have the Beatles, REM, Nirvana, Radiohead albums probably higher, not necessarily than this one, but higher on my personal list than I would on an objective list, I would imagine.
Okay.
If I were being objective, the objective where objective crosses with personal, we talked about this last time. I still think What's Going On is probably the best. Like, I think that's my personal. That's where it crosses from the greatest and the one that means the most too. It's like a personal thing and a cultural thing too.
Means the most to you, or most to society, or both?
Yes. I mean, yeah. We've talked about we've talked about the chain, and we have talked a little bit about Inner City Blues too. We should do an actual episode on Inner City Blues too, and not just like actually do some breakdown for it, and not just talk about it in larger context. But that's one of the great songs either. I mean, and I think honestly, the point that you were making about the chain is something that Marvin did successfully with Inner City Blues, because that is at the end of that album, and so
Correct.
the whole thing is cresting, right, for that album.
Ooh,
right?
That's strong. That's strong, Andrew. I didn't realize that till you said that. Because in my opinion, I mean, Inner City Blues for me is Marvin Gaye's best song, in my opinion.
Yeah, mine too.
Because it's the composition of everything that he is as a writer and an artist and a thinker and a poet, and just it's everything.
It takes, in the same way the chain does, honestly, it takes all of the elements. Forget the whole context of their catalog, but like the whole elements of that whole album of Rumours, of what's going on respectively. That's where you see them all coalesce, where you see them all come together. And like you said, there's poetry, there's storyline, there's musicality, there's singing, there's all of those things are coming together in that moment for both of those songs, actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, Inner City Blues is probably my favorite song. Like it's easily in my top 5 like songs, like period.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's one of the few songs that I like have regularly played my whole life. Like literally played it like 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
It also, for me as a black man, it serves as a staunch reminder about, how progress is sometimes smoke and mirrors, because he is still speaking to some things on this record in 1974, and they are still just as culturally and in reality relevant today.
Yeah,
and so
that's slow.
Yeah, it's showing me how, like, that record alone, and literally the writing in that record,
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective of a black man writing it in 1973 and 74. I mean, Andrew, you can't tell me that it's much different than the ethos that I spit. Like, I'm not saying I'm Marvin with it. I'm just saying you can't tell me that the stuff that I say. Yeah, it's the same societal and systemic issues. And he's like, and that's what I mean, is like he actually addressed it and made it a hit record and one of the best records ever. And it's like smooth too. It's like groovy. And it's like, I don't know how we got the Marvin Gaye's Inner City Blues, but see, that's that hit that
comparing it to the chain, yeah, which is where we're
right. You get to talking about the chain. It's like, need another hit. It's like, Marvin, what's going on? Joni Blue. It's like I told you, you get to talking about all the other albums with it, because there's nothing else to compare it to or talk about. Like, you can't sit up there and talk about the chain and talk. If you're
gonna make it, I don't want to interrupt too much, but like if you're doing comparisons, right, you have to compare it to the greatest things that have ever been made. Like that's all there is.
Right. And so that's where that separation starts occurring, where it's like, oh no, we ain't talking about those songs. We're not talking about those albums. It starts getting smaller. And smaller. Yeah. I did want to make a quick correction. I know that on our Marvin episode we said that it was music's first concept album, but Sgt. Pepper's precedes.
It was before that, yeah.
What's Going On? And so I think What's Going On is better than Sgt. Pepper's, but I did want to make that correction.
But yeah, Sgt. Pepper's is that's not an argument of quality. That's the Sgt. Pepper's comes before that, right? That's that's just a historical statement of fact.
Right. Well, I want to be clear, because we do know our stuff, and it's like I actually paused and thought about that when we were done. I was like, hold on, I think we're wrong.
I think I said that during the thing, didn't I?
Oh, maybe. Did you?
I feel like I did. Yeah. Maybe it got but maybe it got cut off. But yeah, but yeah, Sgt. Pepper comes before that. Ziggy Stardust comes after. I mean, that's another one of those major, and some of the Who's ones come after too, the Quadrophenia, and so those are like.
But also too, and then it goes down the nuance. Well, this is black music's first concept album in that regard, because it's second. It was second on the list, but it's first for black music too. And so think about that's probably
and the construct he's using is different too. Like it's is a departure. I'm impersonating another band because I'm tired of being so famous is very different from I'm a Vietnam veteran coming back from like that, right? Like those are very different kind of constructs.
Right, but also too, it was the departure from the Motown sound too.
Yeah.
It was like that. Like, these records do not sound like Motown records.
Yeah, this is not like Ain't No Woman Like the One. It's not one of those kind of. Which is a great song, by the way. Don't hear me saying bad things about that, but like it's not the same.
I mean, like, and people need to understand there's a personal side of it. Like I don't care what he said. I don't care what people. Marvin Gaye was in love with Tammy Terrell.
Yeah.
And her death did something to him. And he didn't feel like making those type of records after she was gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He never really made records like that again after she died.
No.
Yeah. So there's a construct. Okay, back
to Rumours.
Sidebar. Back to Rumours. This is why we love what we do.
Yeah.
Back to Rumours. First of all, I want to say you were right. It came out in February.
Okay, good.
So the February was right. The first single got released in like November, December of '76.
Okay.
Which is crazy because I thought Dreams would have been the first single just based on but it's the second single actually.
Okay. It's not the poppiest of the songs on there. Like it's the most famous of them, like in retrospect, but like
the slow roll.
Which one was the first one?
That's what I'm looking up right now because I'm trying to remember. Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Like Don't Stop is probably the poppiest of them.
I think that's probably the one. Hold on.
This is also the first major label release, the first one on Warner too.
Right, because the previous one came out like on some like London-based record or something like that.
Reprise, yeah.
Yeah. Go Your Own Way, December 20, 1976. I can't knock that. That's
a good choice too.
Yeah. That's a banger.
I want to do at some point again.
Like, how about this? Go Your Own Way is the type of record that like a rapper should remake, like in a good way, like the way that Sting Police stuff, Isley Brothers stuff gets like, it's one of those records. Yeah.
No, Go Your Own, and maybe Lindsey Buckingham won't like release it to be done that way, but it's because he respectfully has a long history of being kind of a prick. But like, there was something else I was going to say. I learned this morning. Another thing that I learned this morning too, and I'll bring this back to our conversation, is that this is the 11th Fleetwood Mac album.
11th studio album. And this is only the second.
It's only the second one. It's only the second one that includes Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks.
Right, Stevie and Lindsey only.
Previous to that was Peter Green, and the Fleetwood Mac. The Fleetwood is Mick Fleetwood, the drummer, and the Mac is Christine and John McVie, the other pair. The woman singing Songbird and Oh Daddy is Christine McVie, and John McVie's the bass player. So
Oh Daddy has actually been sampled by Beanie Siegel on The Becoming, which I think I referenced before. And also too, if I'm not mistaken, Mick Fleetwood, right?
Mick Fleetwood is the drummer, yeah.
Right. So he's part of this, right? He didn't leave. Which one left?
No, he's part of this, yeah.
Yeah, sorry? Mick Fleetwood's there. Mick Fleetwood's the drummer, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who's the one that left in '74?
Peter Green is the one who left.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Peter, you made a mistake. You made a mistake, Peter. That was
and they were the story is that Mick Fleetwood heard Lindsey Buckingham playing like I think it was in San Francisco, but like a club kind of thing. It's like, oh, I want this guy to come play with us. And Lindsey said, I will come play with you, but only if Stevie can come too. Which is the correct choice. Is the correct choice. Because she is, respectfully to the other members of Fleetwood Mac, she's the superstar. Like she's the one.
The tipping point in all this, right? She's a tipping point in all this. She's having a front woman like her is the difference between, selling, not being funny, selling 15, 20 million, 25 million albums. And that 40 piece you just told me about, she good for about 10, 15. That's what Star Power do. Yeah.
And there's so many musical things that they're doing that are not original, but are very different. Like even they're singing unison with like Lindsey's Buckingham's voice is very, very high and Stevie's is very low. So they're singing kind of the same pitch, which usually doesn't happen with men and women singing together like that. And we've talked about this previously too, that one of the major separators of this album, there's not just one pair of people that are breaking up. There's two. There are people that are breaking up. The McVies are going through a divorce, which is pretty rancorous as well at this point. And so there are plenty of songs in musical history where people are saying, fuck you to my ex, right? There's hundreds of thousands. Right, it's like you said, it's one of the timeless themes of rock and roll or music history, right?
Yeah.
But very, very rarely are those members both in the same musical group,
the only time
and
I can
even
have.
more rarely, most of the time the group breaks up at that point, right? And so you're having solo. You usually get those songs on solo albums where they're sniping back and forth at each other. This is not only the people who are breaking up still in the same group, but they are writing harmonies for the other person and making the other person sing harmony on a song that's telling them to go fuck themselves live on stage. Like it's hardcore stuff.
Definitely emotionally traumatic.
Yeah,
Okay, definitely that they all need therapists. But here's what it is, though. It might be why it made for some of the best music that we ever
that
heard.
tension is incredible. Yeah,
The tension of this album, and it's a passive aggressive tension. That's what I mean. It's like it's a passive aggressive tension that's going on
yeah,
with them, but it's like that coal and the diamonds, man.
yeah.
It did something, and I'm going to tell you exactly why they didn't break up. Oh, they heard what the fuck each other were making,
Hmm.
and was like, oh no, we're not going any damn where. And that decision by them, and maybe Stevie's not affected by this as much because she might probably still has her personal run post
Hmm.
this.
Yeah,
Without this, maybe. But let's be honest, like the reason that they're relevant and have been able to tour the world for the last 45-ish
you're
years,
close to 50. Yeah,
close to 50, is because of this project.
it is.
And so, although there were probably many moments throughout the recording process of this that they probably thought about breaking up the group, that
Hmm.
they probably thought about making their own solo projects, but when they probably heard the best of what each other had, they were like, man, like I go back to, and it doesn't get any better than this. People be like, ask Michael Jackson, it's like, did you know that you were making Thriller when you were making Thriller? And Mike looked at him and said, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
he knows.
you kind of like what Mike wanted to say. It's like, I'm Michael Jackson, motherfucker, right? But Mike was just like, yeah. But what I'm saying is that when you're great, oh, you know when it's coming out great. And they
Hmm.
knew it was coming out great. And they're like, we're not breaking this up until we drop this album.
Nah, man. And one of the other ironic things I learned, noticed today too,
Great.
is that the two people on the cover of this album, this is a very famous album cover too, are a man and a woman, but neither of them are a pair. Like, it's Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks are the people pictured on the cover.
Yeah. I was familiar with this album cover before I was familiar with the album
Oh
too.
yeah. It's one of the most iconic images. It's up there with like Dark Side of the Moon. It's up there with like some of the most very famous album covers that
Oh,
have ever been made.
it's like that.
Who's
Yeah.
next? Yeah.
It's like it's like yeah. It's one of those covers. It's like, oh no, you know it when you see it.
Hmm.
It's like the baby under the water.
Yeah.
On that line. It's like, oh no, you know Stevie Nicks with the little yeah. Yeah, everybody knows that. That's what I'm saying. If you're a music lover, it's like this cover. That's what I mean. It's like this is what I mean. It's affirming for me when we talk about this album and when I heard what I heard, because it was one of those things. It was like, I know this cover, I know this song, I know these people. I already know this shit. It's like I am a music lover. I'm not just a hip hop guy.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
one of those things that affirms me and lets me know. It's like you've talked a lot about the things that have kind of like affirmed you in the hip hop space that you've asked me questions about, and I'm sure you've asked Sean and AG questions behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff too. Well, Rumors is my affirmation. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, no, it's like I do know what I'm talking about this.
I am hearing what I think I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I thought this was some of the dopest shit I ever heard, and it is.
Hmm.
Because sometimes, we are victim of our own biases and our own conditioning that we say that we don't want to be a part of. And so there is a part of me that when I hear Fleetwood Mac Rumors, for the first few times, I'm like, well, just a black guy from East Atlanta and West Side of Charlotte, what the fuck do I know about this? And so when you and I are having this conversation and I'm telling you, it's like, no, the chain is the peak. And you're like, no, it is. I'm like, oh
It is.
shit. Like, I'm like, okay, and this is why we do this show.
Exactly. Yeah. It's worked. Obviously, I've said this on the show dozens of times. That it's good to hear confirmation of that I am hearing in the hip hop world, especially. I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing.
Right.
And so in many senses, the show is about training our ears, right? Or making sure that our ears are properly calibrated.
I think first of all, I think before you can train your ear, you have to tear down what you've heard.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've done is torn every down. Like how about this? It's like we have constructed a song with this. We've constructed a song with this podcast that we've chosen to do. But what we did before we really speak is we stripped down the bass, the snare, the hi-hat, the vocals, and we isolate everything, so that you can hear it and see it and feel it clearly, so that when we put it back together, you understand,
You
hear
Yeah,
it clear.
that's been my um biggest of advancement, I guess, especially in listening to hip hop music, is learning what to listen for and like what things are and like what sounds are and like how to pick out different pieces. And I think
Mhm.
that's kind of what you're saying about other music too, is that you're not that you couldn't before and not that I couldn't before, but you're training myself to hear like what am I listening for and what
Mhm.
what am I hearing and am I hearing correctly, and yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Starting to develop my own personal taste too now, like, as
and
opposed to just
and even
going
within
off
the
of what
love,
other people say.
and even within the love, sometimes there are still those biases. And here's what's beautiful about Rumors, because here's the thing about it: you and I probably love the chain equally the same, but we probably love it aesthetically for some different reasons. I
Okay.
bet you.
What reasons do you love it for? Like, what's your
I think it's the part of me that has had trouble maintaining relationships.
Mhm.
So the personal side of my personal life that has, like, you know, quite frankly, at 43 going on 44, feeling like I failed at love again and again and again. There's the part of me that immediately emotionally connects to the angst, the animosity, that tense nature that you're talking
Yeah,
about. When I'm all too acquainted with it.
yeah. And
And so
the
it's better.
the
Look,
tenseness
look,
in that
look,
song is, or the tension in that song is both in the lyrics and in the music, right?
look, correct. And it's better, and not to be funny. Well, it's like, oh no, better to hear it than to experience it anymore. I'd rather let them sing that shit to
Yeah,
me. And
yeah,
so there's that part of me personally that's because of that, and it makes that song a safe space, if that makes sense.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, I ain't the only one going through this bullshit. I ain't been the only one going through this bullshit. This bullshit been going on for white people,
For
black people,
everybody.
for since the beginning, since before I was born. This album 3 years before we born, sir.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And
and then
that's the point. That's one of the major points of the show, right?
mhm,
Both this episode and generally is that I wanted to make a show at some level that showed that everybody is going through has the same emotional base. I mean, the
yeah,
things that we connect with, maybe not exactly the same. Our personal histories are not the same. Our biases are not the same. But like, we've all had heartbreak. We've all had, like, all of us have felt these things. If you don't love me now, then you'll never love me again. And then the knife right there is because that part's in unison and the harmony comes out. I can still hear you saying we will never break the chain. Like, that's not just fuck you. That's taking something that you've said and throwing it back in your face. Right. It's that kind of, it's the same thing that happens in Case of You, right? And we talked about that in one of our very first episodes. Taking
and
something that the other person has said and throwing it back at them in a fit of rage. Like,
that's what I
it's
mean. It happened.
I'm
That's what
like,
I
I'm
mean.
getting chills on my
Song,
arms now talking about it.
right? That's what I mean. That song's all too real for me personally. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, it's like, oh no, I know that woman. I know that woman very well, and I know that guy because I am that guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, like, how about this? The first time that I heard the record,
Hmm.
I knew it was a breakup song. I knew it was the breakup song. Like, I knew it. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying about, like, no, the record gave me chills. Like, when it transitioned, it's like I knew. I was like, because I felt the pain of it
Hmm.
personally. It did
Yeah.
something to me. But there's also the part of me that's a rap head. So when you talk about that, and
The,
that's how the
the
record
heartbeat.
starts. Right. Well, that's how the record starts. It's like, not to be funny, it goes back to the Dave Chappelle thing. It's like, niggas love some drums. So when he starts off with the drums, okay, boom, boom. It's like, oh no, I was like, hold on. I was like, the rest of these songs have started off with chords up until this point.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah. These 6 records before started off with chords. You start off with a bass line with some drum. I was like, oh, hold up. I was like, that's my shit. That's for the rap dudes.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
and
that's
it's not even a complicated drum thing either. It's just a kick.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
That's it. But I mean, not being funny though, hearing the kick and feeling the pain is like, oh no, that's all I needed. It's like before they even said it, I knew what time it was. And that's the beautiful thing about a classic album is that like you can kind of sometimes when you get into the groove of the album, oh, you can feel where they're taking you. It's like, oh, hold on. It's like you start listening to it. It's like, hold on, these are it's like, is everybody hold on? Because at first you think it's like, hold on, it sounds like one big orgy. It's like, hold on, this isn't an orgy. They're breaking up. These motherfuckers don't like each other. They're recording music together. This is crazy. And then the chain comes on, and you're like, oh, it's bad. They're not getting
and it was bad. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. It's like the chain is when you realize it's like, oh no, they're making beautiful music, but it's bad.
no, it's love and drugs and all kinds of nasty shit going on
Right.
in this area.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
and up until that point, like in Dreams is the
And
other
it's okay.
really famous song, right? Like you have, like, they don't sound, until you get to the chain, really, they don't sound like breakup songs. They are, but they don't really have that
Right,
feel to them.
right.
But I mean, like it took. I listened to the song "Dreams" for 30 years before I realized she was saying, "And here we go again. You said you want your freedom. Who am I to keep you here?" Like I'm like, ooh, like it's like I don't think you can
Bars,
see my arms having
all kind
chill
of
bumps
bars,
on them. Like
all kind of bars, all kind of
still, like,
bars,
ugh,
bars for
man,
days. That's what I
like,
mean. That's okay. So like, this is what I mean is like those first 6 records are killing you softly, like
mhm,
Roberta Flack.
yeah,
Oh no, the chain is where they.
yep,
You see what's going on? It's like, oh, it's like, and that's what I mean. That's why the chain is that record. The chain is a record is like, hold on, run them first 6 records back. We have a problem.
mhm.
We have a
And
problem
they're
in the
going
hemisphere.
back and forth too, because Lindsay does one and Stevie does one, and Lindsay does one, and Stevie
And
like it goes back and forth.
that's when you start seeing the back and forth
Yeah.
because that's what I mean. As a listener not acquainted with that style of music, it's like, hold on, this is a little bit more than just the music being good. It's like, hold on, this is a story. It's like, hold on, whose side am I on? Hold on, what did he just
Mhm.
say? What did she
And the
just
album's
say?
called Rumors too, right? And it
Rumors,
starts with a
right?
fucking song called Secondhand News. Right. So
Very
this
shady.
this is
It's a very shady
some
album,
he says she said bullshit, right? That's the
right?
that's what we're looking at. Man,
Right. So
this is an incredible album. And all due respect to the other albums that came out this year, this was the year of Hotel California. This was the year of the Clash's first album. You start getting the punk stuff. You start getting Ramones, Blondie. I mean, that kind of stuff. Like none of that is even close.
no,
Um,
I mean, let's just call it what it is, and then I do got to get out of here. This
yeah,
is one of the most special moments in music history.
it is.
It
It's
is.
it's
It's a moment.
it takes a ton of things and kind of pulls them all together in once. It
Mhm.
takes themes, it takes music, it takes harmony, it takes guitar playing. Because Lindsey Buckingham, for all his whatevers, is an incredible guitar player and a very distinct guitar player too.
Ain't
And go ahead.
no, I want you to finish because
No,
I
like there's all these pieces that are coming together to become this. Is one of those moments where the parts are all great, but the sum of the parts is greater, which you said at the very beginning of this. Just go
hmm
ahead.
yeah. Okay, so sometimes I look at music speaks to who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and so I know that culturally speaking in America, we always talk about you know the indigenous peoples and black people and their cultural experience.
Mm-hmm.
Rumors by Fleetwood Mac could be considered diaspora on the white experience.
Say more about that.
Because, okay, this is what I mean. So until this album really gets made, and this is really something that I want you to think about. I had never really heard white women talk like this about white men before on record.
Yeah.
Can you even name me a group that got two? Not being, and I'm not being funny at all when I say this, Andrew. Can you name me 2 white girls that got 2 white girls like this
Like groups that
before?
have two different white women singing in their group.
But also that are like these type of women, because these type of women don't play that shit, Andrew, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
Like these are more um feminist feministic
Which is why Stevie Nicks is a cultural icon, and Christine McVie too are cultural icons now too, not
Correct.
just.
So that's what I mean. So there's some groundbreaking nature to what you're hearing too. Like this is what I mean. Ain't no women on record talk shit about no white men like this before. I'm serious when I say that.
The ones that I'm thinking of are after this.
Correct.
Like,
that's what I mean. And so this is kind of like a cultural.
You see it, and so like Joni Mitchell is the other one who's doing it before, but she's just by herself too. So
right, that's what I mean. But this is what I mean. These women are in the group and in relationships with these men. And they're talking about these men on record that they're in a group with. Like things are different.
They're talking it to their faces on stage. Yeah.
Different on Rumours is what I'm saying. That's different. This is 1970. Like, no, it's different. That's shit not happening before. And so culturally, you could see a dynamic where things for women's empowerment is changing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of Black women feel this way. And then I do have to go. They look at the feminist movement like a white thing. And that's why I said feminist. And so in a lot of ways, this album is responsible for some of that, because it's empowering to hear these women talk about these white men that way. We didn't do that on record before.
Yeah, that's a great way to end, and that's a great point. I want to dig more into that later, honestly. But that's really cool.
We'll talk about it more, but sit on it. Yeah.
But I have to sit on that one. I want to do an episode still where we do like a battle rap kind of a comparison, but with Go Your Own Way in Dreams and whatever battle you want to use from the other side. But I mean, obviously there's thousands, but like pick one.
All right, I gotta go.
All right.
Last thought. Todd said we need to look into doing some mixtape episodes. Something to think about.
Okay, sounds good.
I've been on her all day.
All right. Take care, y'all. This has been Mirror. I think this is 55. This is Rumours, Fleetwood Mac. This is not there's no competition for this is one of actually the ones the Grammys got right. We'll leave it like that. So it's
clock, Andrew. They've been right twice. Lauryn Hill, Fleetwood Mac. All right.
Yeah. See ya. Take care, guys.
All right.